All right. Welcome, 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 everybody. Thank you so much for joining us this evening. My name is Matt Dunbar, and I'm the Chief of Staff here at Habitat for Humanity, New York City and Westchester County. And we are so excited to be joining you tonight to talk a little bit about our Plus One ADU program to create and legalize accessory dwelling units in select partner municipalities in Westchester County. And we are so thrilled that you are interested in this subject, and we are hopeful that many of you will be interested in partnering with us in order to create some accessory dwelling units and create affordable housing and create affordable housing options for homeowners in Westchester. So without further ado, we're going to jump in and go over a couple housekeeping items first and foremost. This webinar is being recorded so that we can post it later, so that if you or somebody that you know might be interested in this, please keep an eye out on our social media channels and on our website as we will be posting this, and then you can circulate it to continue to educate folks about the opportunity in case somebody that you know missed the webinar. And second, we currently have the chat muted, but our question and answer function, the Q&A function, is operational. And so please engage with us during the presentation. Put your question or your comment into the Q&A piece, and we will be checking them later on in the presentation, and hopefully we'll be able to answer any questions you all might have by the end of the presentation. So here's the agenda. We're going to start with a little bit of acknowledgments and just a quick overview and briefing on Habitat. We're going to talk a bit about what an ADU is and how it varies in different contexts. We're going to talk a little bit more about the Plus One ADU program and the opportunity that Westchester homeowners have to create an ADU. And then we're going to talk a little bit about how to apply and move forward with the program. So I first just want to thank all of our amazing co-sponsors that joined us in amplifying this webinar and have been so supportive of this program and of the accessory dwelling unit movement. As I'm legally blind and visually impaired, I'm not going to read out the names, but we do encourage that you visit all of their websites, as we will be circulating the webinar through their social media channels as well. But we thank the Building and Realty Institute especially, and Welcome Home Westchester, and all of our partners at the state and the county who joined us in co-sponsoring this special webinar. So Habitat for Humanity, our vision is a world where everyone has a safe and decent place to live. And what that means locally is that we seek to transform lives and communities by building and preserving affordable housing with families in need and uniting New Yorkers around the cause of affordable housing. So that means building affordable home ownership. Habitat for Humanity is an organization that really seeks to create and preserve affordable home ownership throughout New York City and Westchester County. And so we do that through affordable housing development, rehabilitation. Many folks, know Habitat for our volunteer program, which we do, but we are also in our region building a lot of cooperative and multifamily development as well. We partner with limited equity cooperatives and other limited equity home ownership opportunities to preserve affordable home ownership in our region. And then we join with New Yorkers to advocate for policy change and systems change that will create and preserve more affordable housing throughout our cities and our state. More recently, Habitat expanded our services to Westchester County. Our affiliate was actually founded in 1984 on the Lower East Side of Manhattan, and we have served and built over 500 homes in New York City since our founding. But then we expanded into Westchester about 4 years ago and have sought to identify ways in which the Habitat for Humanity model will be able to serve more folks in Westchester County. So currently, in our first few years, we identified a number of ways that Habitat could work to partner with families and to advance our mission. That includes our Aging in Place home repair program, in which we partner with low-income homeowners that may be needing some safety and mobility upgrades and modifications to their home in order to age safely in their home. So we have a program in which we're advancing that. We have received some money from the state to advance some flood repair and reimbursement for flood damage homes throughout the county in Westchester. We're here tonight to talk about our +1 ADU program to create and legalize accessory dwelling units in the county. We are still looking for our first affordable housing development opportunity. So if folks know of opportunities that you think Habitat would be a good fit for within your municipalities, please reach out. We are always looking for opportunities to serve. And then we are also do a lot of advocacy to change policies and systems and structures, both at the municipal level and across the state and country. And lastly, if you haven't visited our Yonkers Restore yet, please visit our store on Nebrahana Avenue to shop our furniture and donated home good materials. Every purchase at the Yonkers Restore helps to advance our mission of building a world where everyone has a safe, decent place to live. So with that, and without further ado, I want to pass on the microphone over to my colleague Marnie, who will really get into the substance of our webinar today, focusing on accessory dwelling units. So take it away, Marnie.
Thanks, Matt. Thank you everyone for coming. My name is Marnie Henricksson. I'm the Westchester Homeownership Programs Manager for Habitat, and I am the main contact you will have for the +1 ADU program. And I take homeowners from events like this straight through to the point of getting your building permits. And then at that point, we turn it over to our construction team. I just want to say a few things. I'm sure people are going to have a lot of questions. We aren't going to take questions until the end of the webinar. So if you could put them in the Q&A, anytime you think of them throughout the process, we'll get to them at the end. Also, something I wanted to mention, the last slide in this presentation is my contact information, my phone number and my email. That is super important because I'm sure a lot of you will have questions after this, maybe just want to chat about the program or get the process started. And I will be the person you contact for that. So if you have a pencil ready to write down the email address or the phone number, I'm happy to talk on the phone. And a little heads up about that, I have site visits all day tomorrow, so I'm available from Thursday on. Okay, so the first things first, what is an ADU? There are two types of ADUs. They can be either interior units or exterior units. Inside, I would say the most common we have is a basement conversion. Then there are attic conversions. If you have an attached garage, that's considered an interior unit, or any other living space. I have some people who maybe have a second floor that they want to turn into an ADU, or want to put an addition out back that they want to turn into an ADU. It has to have several things. It has to have, a full kitchen, full bath, separate entrance, and sleeping area. So it's a whole, independent unit. They can also be exterior. What a lot of people think of when they think of ADUs is freestanding standalone structure. And that is an ADU, but also it can be, let's say you have a detached garage where you want to put the second floor, turn that into an ADU. That's allowed. Now, the thing is, these are all types of ADUs. It doesn't necessarily mean they will be allowed in your municipality. Each municipality has their own zoning regulations, has their own areas. All of our municipalities, of course, have adopted the ADU ordinance. So ADUs are allowed, but not on every single property. So the first step before we get into anything is we determine whether or not you're allowed to have what you want to have. And then we move forward from there. One thing that I want to mention now, a lot of people think, a tiny house is not an ADU. it has to have a foundation. It has to be connected to the utilities. It has to be a real thing. It can't be movable like a tiny house. It can be modular, but just not a, tiny house on a trailer type thing. Okay, now, yeah, next slide. Okay, why build an ADU? The two main reasons to build an ADU are for the income. A lot of people are building an ADU in order to stabilize their income, to thinking of the future. If they're older, a way they can remain in their house through their old age. Or the other main thing is to house a family member or friend. Any use is great. The main thing we are concerned about is that the ADU be occupied, because what we are doing is creating more housing. So we want that ADU to be in use. So it's not to be an Airbnb or something like that. It's a long-term rental. By long-term, 6 months to a year lease. And of course, the main reason for Habitat is to expand housing opportunities in our community, to just get more housing in single-family zoned areas. Okay, so I'm just thought I'd give you a few could you go back, Matt?
Mm-hmm.
I thought I'd give you a few examples of the kind of people we're working with and what they're doing with the ADU. We have one homeowner who is putting an addition on the back of her house in Yorktown, has a daughter who's now 21 years old who has Down syndrome. She really, really wants her independence, and this is a way she can get it while still being close to home. And, they each have their own kitchen, they lead their own lives, but are near. I have another homeowner in Hastings who, is inherited a family home, is a very young woman, wants to keep the home. The taxes are outrageously high. So her idea is she's moving into the garage ADU herself. And then the house she's going to rent out and should be able to make, be able to stay in that house as long as she wants. Then eventually in the future, move back into the main house. Another family who there's been a divorce and the husband has the, mortgage on the house, and he also has large child support payments. So he put an ADU upstairs on the second floor, and, that's going to give him just the right amount of income that he needs to pay all his bills and still have room to have his children come and visit and stay with him part of the time. So that, I think it's always just nice to think of real world examples of what's going on out there and make you think of, oh, that's something. A lot of, because people don't really think they could move into that ADU. And that is another, I have another one who just signed on, who she is moving into a basement ADU, and her daughter's coming from Houston with her young baby, and they're going to live in the main house upstairs. So, all kinds of different ways you can work it. Okay, the next slide. Okay, the 2022-2023 New York State capital budget made available $85 million for the purposes of creating and upgrading accessory dwelling units across New York State as part of 5-year housing plan. We are currently in the third round of funding for this program. Habitat for Humanity participated in the first 2 rounds of funding. In the first round, we have the river towns of Irvington, Dobbs Ferry, and Hastings on Hudson, and also Bedford. And in the second round, we got the river towns again, and we got some northern municipalities, Yorktown, Croton on Hudson, and Cortlandt. So these are the municipalities we are currently dealing with. In the third round of funding, which we chose not to participate in it, our good friends, Housing Action Council, stepped up and got a grant for Pleasantville, Lewisboro, and Tarrytown. So at present, those 9 municipalities, Bedford is no longer participating. Those 9 municipalities are the only places in Westchester that are participating in this program. Okay, next slide, please. Okay, I just mentioned this, that yes, we have Dobbs Ferry, Hastings on Hudson, Irvington, Croton, Cortlandt, and Yorktown. And the homeowner, if they qualify, can get a grant of up to $125,000, which includes hard and soft costs for the creation of an ADU. Soft costs are things like admin fees that go to Habitat for Humanity, your architect's fees if you need a survey done, if you need engineering work done, and then the hard costs are construction costs. There are a lot of other organizations working on the Plus One ADU program in other areas of the state. I think with the third round of funding, we have about 13 affiliates now handling many different municipalities. We work together, we meet bi-weekly, so we all share ideas and people share what's working, what's not working, and that has been a wonderful part of this program. The last thing on this slide is this website, the website for the state. It's hcr.ny.gov/ADU. I would highly recommend writing that down and visiting that site. They have, through the years, they have updated the site, and now they have every single thing you would ever want to know about this program is on that site. Every form that needs to be filled out, every document, the grant agreements, everything. So you can get a really good idea of, what you're in for and what the steps are. Next slide, please. Okay, the process starts with me and a conversation or an email where I will ask you some basic information, your address, your gross household income, what type of ADU you'd like, whether you're on sewer or septic, just a few basic things like that. And if you are in the 120% area median income or less, and you own your home in one of these municipalities and you live in that home, then you may qualify for the program. This table just gives you an idea. Area median income is done by number of persons in the household. So the 120% number that you need to be at or less to participate is for how many people you have. As an example, a 4-person household, you can make up to $204,000 and be in the program. Okay, next slide. Okay, the application process is, I'll go into a little more detail. The first one here, so you give me that information, we go ahead, we do a little research on your address to see what's allowed on your property. And then if that checks out, and I will send you an application. Then you fill out the application, provide me with homeownership and income documents, and I qualify you income-wise and to prove that you own the home and your mortgage is in good standing and things like that. And then I provide you with a list of architects and contractors, and the architect list is as a guide. You do not have to use one of our architects or one of our contractors. Most people I find know someone in their community, or someone has worked on their house in the past or something like that, and they feel most comfortable using them. It's totally allowed by the program. This is a homeowner-driven program, so you make the decisions. So the architect is then selected, you sign a contract with the architect directly. Habitat will pay the bills, but you need to, you need to agree to terms with the architect, because for most of these ADUs, a homeowner contribution is needed. So this is your money that you're talking about. So you want to make sure that you are comfortable with the terms of that contract. Then the architect starts his drawings, works and with a contractor, and you get a scope of work and bid out the ADU, get the building permits. This makes it seem very simple, but this is actually a very long and drawn out process. Habitat works as a, helps guide you and will review and make sure all our ducks are in a row and everything like that. But it's still, you are the one who's deciding, this is what I want. I want this kind of cabinetry. I want this or that. And of course you can have whatever you want. It's just a matter of it, it's going to be over the $125,000 grant. Habitat will inspect the property. Mostly it'll be me coming by. I'll come by for a first site visit, which is what we do when we first hire an architect. We have a site visit with me, the architect, and you, and we go over at that. That's a very important meeting, because at that time we sign a grant agreement. Basically decide if your project is feasible and try to figure out roughly how much the whole thing would cost, just a very, very, very rough idea, so that you will know, okay, as homeowners are going to have to put in, maybe $50,000 or something like that. And if that's something you're going to be comfortable with. Okay, next slide. The zoning is, all important with these sites. As an example, a lot of the sort of things you're going to come up against with zoning is certain towns won't allow an exterior ADU in certain areas no matter what. So it has to be an interior unit. Then some of them will allow interior units, but the interior unit can only be a certain percentage of the square footage of the house. And if you have a very small house, that's, makes maybe too small of an ADU. Or you might have, there's just many, many, many different zoning situations. And we have all the zoning information from each of our municipalities. And so as soon as I send you the application, I also send you that land use sheet, so you can see, what is going to be allowed, or the size wise. Of course, you can always try to get a variance for each of these problems that come up, but it's good to know this stuff up front. So I highly recommend at the beginning of our time together that you go to your building inspector, say what you propose to do, and see, if what they think, is going to be the process. Because maybe it's not technically allowed to have 400 square feet. Your house is a little small for that, but there's a likelihood they will give you a variance for that. Okay, next slide. Okay, here's a little example of a budget. Pre-development is before we actually start construction. So this is things like architect's fees, surveys, and engineering if you need to have something done with your septic, things like that. Now the program has just changed recently, and they now have a 5% cap, which is $6,300 on how much pre-development money we can ask the state to pay for in advance. So what I do is I tell the architects that, just their first bill should be for around $6,000. And then we can get all our drawings done and get up to speed for that amount. Then the next item is project delivery. Now that is Habitat for Humanity's admin fees for running this program. And that is 10% of the grant. So it's $12,500. We like to say that right up front. And then construction costs, I just put the numbers in here, $125,000 to $200,000. That is what all the ADUs we've been working on so far, that's the range they're coming in at. So as you add that up, you can see, okay, a homeowner contribution might be something like $25,000 to $100,000. And that is not uncommon. As an example, I just got a bid on one today where actually it's a standalone unit, it's $300,000. Obviously, the interior units are going to be less expensive than the exterior units. The interior units, because the utilities are already there, you don't have to trench out to get to your sewer line or anything like that. It's already there. Those expenses are very high, and bringing the water line in, things like that, that can eat up a lot of your budget right there. So that's why standalone units are so much more expensive. People think, oh, it's because of the construction and I'll just get a modular unit, which you're totally free to get a modular unit. But it's, once you do a little investigating into it, you find that those units are maybe a little less than the actual construction, but getting them delivered onto a property is very tricky, especially in places like Hastings on Hudson. And so a lot of times it's more expedient to build from stick. So that this is a main challenge of the program is the homeowner contribution. So we just want to make that very clear up front that it is possible to do an ADU for the grant amount, but those are generally legalizing an existing ADU. As an example, I have a guy in Yorktown who has already built an ADU in his house. It just has a few little tweaks with windows and stuff to be up to code, and he needs to replace his septic system. So that altogether will probably cost about $65,000, $75,000. So he will come in under the grant amount. But in general, there is going to be a homeowner contribution needed. And once we reach the point in the process where we know roughly what the homeowner contribution is going to be, I ask to see proof of that in an investment account or wherever you plan on getting that money. Okay, next slide. This is just a little example from Croton. We already talked a little bit about this, but this just can show you that, there's all these different zoning districts within a town. And these are the ones in Croton that allow for ADUs. And then in some towns, they may allow ADUs in 4 or 5 zoning districts, but standalones can only be in 2 zoning districts, the ones with more property, things like that. So the zoning is, very, very important. I would say Croton has been very wonderful about the zoning and being very open about things and moving things along quickly. We have Croton was in the second round of funding, but we have we just got building permits for our first standalone ADU there. And so that's real kudos to them because that's fast for this program. Next slide. Okay, some of the challenges, the ADU size. Generally, they're somewhere between 300 and 800 square feet. each municipality has regulations about how big, some of them have to be at least 400 square feet. Some have to be at least 300 square feet, but generally up to 800. I believe Yorktown just is allowing 1,000 square foot now. I think they just made a change in their regulations. Additional parking spaces may be mandatory. That's something else to consider, if you're renting it out or someone's going to have to park. And a lot of the parking is very tight, especially in places like Hastings on Hudson. So you might have to get a variance for that, or, in larger parking spot or some parking area or something like that. Property owner must live on site and occupy one of the units. I don't know, I'm not quite sure why that was in there. But of course, and that's, yes, obviously it can't be a rental unit. I've had many people approach me who have a rental house who want to put an ADU in it, and that is not allowed. Yeah, let's take a little moment here to talk about the tax implications. Your property taxes, with the addition of an ADU, your property taxes will increase. So we ask each homeowner early in the process to go to their local assessor and let them know what you plan on doing. Say, I plan on building a 2-bedroom, 800 square foot ADU in my basement. And, what would be a rough idea of my tax increase. And they've been pretty good about letting you know what that is. Then that's, I think, roughly like 8 to 10%. So there is we have with this ADU program, the state has made this 421p2 abatement, where your property taxes are abated for a 10-year period, with an increase is abated for the first 10 years of your ADU, the first 5 years full abatement, then after that 20% less for the next 5 years until you are paying full market value tax increase at 10 years. Now, it's a wonderful thing. Our problem is all the municipalities have not enacted this. So far, Croton on Hudson is the only municipality who has enacted it. So that it's something once you build your ADU, you have to apply for it in order to get it, but it is available to you in Croton. So that is, taxes are a challenge. So the challenges are mainly the homeowner contribution, the taxes increase, the zoning regulations, and the last thing is septic. If you were on septic, we didn't really deal with this in the first round because the river towns are all on sewer. So, but the second round, up in especially Cortlandt and Yorktown, most people are on septic systems. And the Westchester Department of Health needs to clear your septic system before you are allowed to get your building permit. So what that usually means is, what they're doing is they're assessing your system to see if your tank and fields are large enough to take on the additional bedroom that the ADU will give. So that is another, there's a lot to talk about septic, but I'm not going to get into that since that will be specific to homeowners who have septic, and we can have conversations about that on the phone very easily. Next slide. You know what, Matt?
Mm-hmm.
Do you have Q&A on yours? Because I don't have it on mine.
Let me stop sharing, and then we might be able to access the Q&A.
Because it says take control. Should I press that? Oops.
Maybe. There should be a Q&A section. You can take control if you like. Q&A section up top. While Marnie is looking at that, I just want to thank you, Marnie, for that very detailed presentation. As she mentioned, we are wanting everybody to have all of the information, which that means talking about like the benefits, which we are extremely excited about and huge advocates for. We are members of the Welcome Home Westchester campaign that did seek to advance accessory dwelling units across the county and the state. That did lead to the funding of this program of $85 million in the state's 5-year capital plan. And so we are really excited to have been selected to help all of you advance the creation and legalization of ADUs in your communities. But I just wanted to also just re-emphasize, it's really important that you check with your municipality to see if ADUs are legal in your municipality. There are, I think, maybe 17 to 20 municipalities in Westchester County that have ordinances legalizing ADUs out of about the 48 or so municipalities in the county. And our program is only funded for the 6 municipalities that Marnie mentioned. So the river towns, Irvington, Hastings, on-Hudson, Dobbs Ferry, and then in northern Westchester, Yorktown, Croton, on-Hudson, and Cortlandt. So if you are living in one of those municipalities, you may qualify for this program. If your municipality has not yet legalized ADUs, we do recommend that you reach out to them and let them know that you are interested in this solution, and there may be opportunities in future rounds, either if Habitat is able to expand our services, but also there might be other not-for-profit organizations that partner with those municipalities that have legalized ADUs in the future to implement the program there. So we do encourage folks advocate to their local elected officials and to their state officials and county officials as well to advance these efforts. So Marnie, were you able to
found it.
Okay, wonderful.
Okay. Does once real estate taxes change with an ADU? Can one have multiple ADUs on a single lot? The real estate tax does increase, as I talked about. No, you are only allowed 1 ADU per single family lot. The minimum size for an ADU is, I think it is either 300 or 400 square feet, depending upon where you live. Are there any advantages in making it a disability accessible ADU? I don't know of any like tax breaks you get for that. I think it's a wonderful idea, but I don't know. I have to find out about that. I don't know the answer to that question. Let's see. Does it include permit costs? No. I didn't. The 6,300 was just the maximum the state will pay in advance for pre-development. So permit costs, quite frankly, usually when permit costs come up, I have the homeowner pay them because it's usually not a large number and homeowner is going to be contributing anyway. And so at that point, we want the homeowner to start making their contribution. That's usually just a couple $1,000s. How would a community that doesn't have a nonprofit partner get one so the community could then qualify for the program? I'm part of Portchester Housing. Yeah. Well, now that we've had 3 rounds of funding, the state is undecided if they're going to do another round of funding with this particular program. So I'm not sure it's going to be possible with this +1 program unless they, re-up it. But the way you get involved is to get a number of people in your community to talk to your planning board, town officials, and say that you are interested, and because the program, the idea of the program is that it's municipality driven, that the municipality wants it. They want, they want to get behind this cause of affordable housing. And so they want to push things forward and help us along. And so you approach them. It doesn't, I kept track of everyone that contacted me. And so when it came around time to get our second round of funding, I had suggestions because I knew a lot of people had contacted me in places like Croton on Hudson and Yorktown. So I suggested that, but at the same time, those municipalities approached us and they, wanted to participate in the program. So I would talk to Portchester. Entire meeting, but for those using the housing subsidy program, the unit needs to CO. Some municipalities, daughter or senior family option. I'm just going to read this one. I think it's just for information. I cannot stay on for entire meeting, but for those using OPWDD housing subsidy program, the AD unit needs to have a CEO. Some municipalities may offer a mother, daughter, or senior or family option. These options will not allow those looking to access OPWDD housing subsidy to receive. So please ensure that you are letting families who want to do this for their disabled adult child to do the CO option only. Sure I am. As you know, there is some opposition to ADUs in many communities. It is usually expressed in terms of concerns about increased density and aesthetic concerns. There's more, hold on. Could you comment generally on these concerns, especially the ones that you have heard yourselves? Thank you. That is very true. Westchester, as we all know, is a wealthy county, and there are those in towns and in homeowners and in the local government who are not in favor of ADUs, thinking it's going to bring in, I don't know, undesirable types or something, lower income people. But I would just like to say there is no income limit, or these are not affordable units that we're building. They are affordable automatically because they're apartments. They're not houses. But people, I don't know.
Actually, let me add a little bit to that. So the way that the program is structured is that there is not an affordability requirement for the accessory dwelling unit that is being built. The program exists, the income qualifications are for the qualifying homeowners that will be adding the accessory dwelling unit, and accessory dwelling units are on a market level more affordable than kind of the like if one was to build a new apartment complex or a new home of different types. Accessory dwelling units on the market generally are more affordable than other housing types, and so it is and it is also adding to the supply, which the more housing we have collectively, the more affordable the goal is to see in our neighborhoods. And so it helps with the affordability for the homeowner. It also creates affordable housing options for whether that for family members to potentially be able to live independently within people's houses, things of that nature. And I'll speak to the pushback a little bit as well, because we have been advocating, and we've engaged with legislators and with individuals who have had concerns about ADUs in their neighborhoods. And oftentimes what I mention to folks is a lot of these ADUs are kind of being built and created within homes for people that maybe used to have a 5-person household, but now they're a 1-person or a 2-person household. And so by adding an ADU, they may actually be growing the population of that home back to a level that it already was. And oftentimes there are ADUs that exist in people's neighborhoods already, and that you may just not know that there is an ADU in your home. What we're talking about generally, and I like to use kind of the examples of Happy Days. These are the kinds of units that the Fonz lived in that were very, very common in previous times, but over time, as municipalities sought to downzone or to kind of spread out populations, these units became rarer or harder to achieve. And so we want to emphasize that these are not scary housing types. These are common, and these are ways for families to either come back together, ways for adult children to be able to move back into communities that they couldn't afford on their own these days, and to help your neighbors to be able to afford to stay in their home and to keep affording their home. So those are the responses that we generally have when we receive some pushback. And this is really, really modest density. It is increased density. It is creating housing. It is extremely valuable to our communities, but it is not scary housing types. Would be my response.
Also, I want to mention they mentioned aesthetics. Most of the zoning regulations in these towns make sure that the front on view of the house does not change. That's part of it. You can't build out to the side or whatever. Your street view is going to remain the same. So your neighborhood is going to look the same. Okay, here's another one. Utilities will most likely need to be upgraded to handle age and additional load. This includes municipal hookups, upgrading electrical, hot water, HVAC. I believe this area, $125,000 to $200,000 is a fantasy. If there is a tax incentive for building an ADU, now that the rest of the community will have to contribute to additional municipal and infrastructure costs such as schools, fire and ambulance, parking, and road maintenance, can you please comment on these issues? First of all, we are not talking about a lot of ADUs. We are talking about, we're putting in the river towns, in the 3 communities, we're putting in 12 ADUs. So we don't have to worry about, the extra costs for the schools and things like that. That's kind of not really an issue. This is not a huge developments or anything like this. These are small numbers. Up in the northern municipalities, in those 3 municipalities, a total of 16 units. So, by town, we're only talking about, 5.
A few dozen, yeah.
So
total,
it's not, I don't think that's really a fair comment. As far as the costs that I quoted are not just things I made up. They're from actual projects that we have ongoing. So those are, these are, things like converting an existing basement that already has a door, to the outside, and the utilities are right there. It's not a ridiculously expensive proposition. Okay, here's another one. Upon completing the ADU, is the rental income from our adult child required to be put into a special needs trust? Would be using OPWDD housing subsidy. There are no rules as far as I know. Matt,
I'm not familiar with that particular subsidy source. For the subsidy that's coming through the +1 ADU program, there is not a requirement that the rental from your adult children go into any specific fund. So I don't want to speak to the OPWDD subsidy, because that's not a subsidy program that we're specifically talking about in this webinar, I would recommend that you reach out to whoever is in charge of that subsidy to make sure that source, if it is, being sought as an additional source, that everything kind of works together. But for the +1 ADU program, there is not a requirement that I'm aware of that the rent will go into any particular fund.
Okay, and another question. My home is in a living trust. Would that be an issue? It is my primary residence. Just so long as you are listed as a member of the living trust, it's not an issue. We have a couple of homeowners who have a living trust who are going forward with the program. Let's see if I have anything else.
Great question.
Wait, there's more. Okay, what does it say? Are you saying that the state will pay $125,000 for me to construct an ADU? If the cost is $100,000, could my contribution be $0? Wow, what? No, no. We are saying that we will give you a $125,000 grant towards the ADU, but actually you can consider it $112,500 since Habitat will take 10%. But that amount can go towards your ADU. But the cost, I can say with pretty much confidence, we require an architect be used. With architect's fees and everything else, it won't be $100,000. It'll be more than that. Westchester has, I don't think most anywhere in the state you can do it for that.
But it's a really, really great foundation of funding to build on. And so yes, there is it's essentially a partnership between the not-for-profit, the municipalities, and the state and the homeowner to create an ADU with you that will benefit you as the homeowner and the community at large. So yes, I mean, as Marnie mentioned, it is unlikely that the total costs will fall under the grant amount, but if it did, then the answer would probably be yes.
Single family home, but contacted your office a year ago and was told I was zoned as a multifamily dwelling. I do not have a multifamily dwelling. What paperwork would be required? Proof of my eligibility. Unfortunately, this program, single family homes in single family residential zoning is the only homes we're working with. We've run into this problem a tremendous amount with multifamily dwellings. Some of the towns like Hastings on Hudson and Dobbs Ferry are considering changing that rule. And if they do, wonderful. We know lots of people have single family homes in multifamily dwellings, multifamily zoning districts. Yeah. I guess the idea is behind this, not allowing it, is that in multifamily districts, you are allowed to build another unit. You are allowed to add an apartment, an accessory apartment. That's already allowed. But this program is very narrow in its scope, and it's just for not that kind of an area, but the area that's a single family home in single family single family zoning. I'm sorry, but that is the case until municipalities decide to change that rule. You can lobby your municipality. I know a couple of homeowners in both Dobbs Ferry and Hastings on Hudson have been trying to build an ADU for quite some time since the program started.
And we are coming to the end of our presentation. So if you want to spot check on the last Q&A, we have about 2 minutes.
Okay, and also Matt, so we don't have the thing up, so I don't have my information to put up on the screen.
Sure. Let me see if I can pull that up while you look at the questions.
Okay. I have to leave to go to another meeting, but I just wanted to thank Habitat for your kind comments about Croton, for your good work and your partnership. Oh, I like these kind of things. ADUs are being proposed and approved in Croton for all the reasons you discussed. We look forward to continuing to work with you. That was from the Len Simon, the deputy mayor. My daughter owns a home in Croton on Hudson. The ADU would be for me to live in on her property as I age. I'm a retired teacher in Virginia. Is this program a way for me to plan my future to move to receive? Yes, it is. Your daughter needs to be the one who contacts me and applies to the program, but potentially, yes, the answer is that. I don't know if you guys can see, it's kind of small print, so I'm just going to say my phone number is 646-779-8893. And my email is mhenricksson, HENRICKSSON @habitatnycwc.org. Let's see, is there anything else? Questions keep coming. When can we apply? You can apply. Just use that email address that I just sent you or telephone and just let me know that you're interested in going to the next step, and I'll give a call or send an email back in the next few days. Assuming I qualify and go through the ADU process, are these restrictions related to selling the property in the future? Oh, yes, I did not touch on this. I'll just try to do it briefly. There is a 10-year compliance period that you sign for at the end of the project. And in those 10 years, you need to remain in the home. If you remain in the home, there's no problem. And we just will check in once a year to make sure you're still there and that the ADU is occupied. But if you sell the house or leave for any other reason, the grant amount needs to be repaid at a rate of 10% less per year that you're there. So let's say you're there for 5 years, and then you sell the house, and then it's $62,500, whatever you'd owe the program. I can also talk about that a lot more in detail over the phone or in an email. But I guess that about does it, Matt. I think that's all the questions I have. You're muted, Matt.
All right, sorry about that. So thank you all so much for participating in the webinar. If you do have any further questions or you would like to apply or have a conversation with Marnie, please do reach out to us. You can also visit our website at www.habitatnycwc.org, and we have a whole page dedicated to this. But we really do appreciate everybody, and we thank you to the co-sponsors for helping us get the word out about this. And we will be posting this webinar up through our social media channels, so please check that out and feel free to forward it on to anybody that you think could potentially benefit from the program. And that's all for tonight. So we thank you, everybody, for joining us, and we will catch you at the next one. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.